Meet Lola. She's a psychotherapist extraordinaire and an award-winning mental health clinician. Over the past 20 years, she's worked with thousands of people addressing a wide range of issues. She's an expert in her field. She understands how emotions, behavior, society, and thought intersect. I sat down with her to delve deep into the subject of why. Why do people do the things they do? In this interview, she shares her insight based on her extensive knowledge of the human mind. Welcome to The Person Within. All right, well, welcome. I am here with Lola Clay of Zen Imago.
Zen Imago, yeah.
Zen Imago, sorry about that. You already know who she is. I did a little intro, but Lola, why don't you tell us just a little bit about how long you've been doing it? What do you do?
Okay, so I'm a clinical psychotherapist. I work with individuals, families, couples, children, you name it. I work with them. I'm also a life coach and small business coach.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that you did that as well. Very cool. Well, this is perfect because a lot of the questions I'm going to be asking you today, there are people from all walks of life, but what I'd love to do on The Person Within is figure out how is it that people who are successful, and it could be successful in business, could be really successful in their relationship, maybe they invented something or they created a service that is needed, but they've done something extra that the average person hasn't done, and maybe relationship's not under there, but how do they do it? Because sometimes, a lot of times it has to do with education, but you hear about these people that have no education, no college background, but they're super successful today, and it's their drive and everything else. Why do they do that? So, out of all the people that you have helped over the years, how many years have you been doing
Oh,
this?
wow. Over 20 at this point.
Over 20.
Yes.
And we're talking thousands of people.
Yes.
Thousands. Of all the people that you've helped, those that have made a quicker change, where they came around quicker, did they have anything in common that that made them turn around quicker and get their life,
100% without a doubt, individuals that make positive change usually have one thing in common for the success mindset, and that's flexibility.
Flexibility. Let's explain that.
Yes, in order to be a flexible person, you have to be able to pivot. So the power of the pivot is something that's really important, and I drive that home with all of my clients. And it doesn't matter if you're 5 or 50, we're going to talk about the ability to adapt and navigate situations, particularly stressful or challenging situations, by being able to say, okay, this was working 5 years ago, this was working 5 minutes ago, but it's not working right now. I've got to come up with something new, and I have to be willing to be flexible and pivot.
That's right, because they need to change something, and they have to be willing to change and make that.
Right, and so often people get committed to one way. It's like, this was working for me, so it has to keep working. This relationship was good, so I have to stay in it because it can be good again. And the rigid mindset can be really, really detrimental to a person's ability to find a path forward.
Excellent. That's a great answer. That's really good to know. This is probably, I don't know if this is a pet peeve of yours. I have no idea, but it is of mine. There are people that are, Lola, they're just negative. They see the negative in everything. You could tell them, hey, I got you tickets to the Astros championship game. Like, parking's going to be murder. That's the first thing, right? So why do people, can you, just in general, because I'm sure you see people that are, man.
Absolutely. And first of all, negativity is really hard to take because it permeates an environment, right?
Yes.
When someone comes and it's like the dark cloud and it's following them around and they're content with that. I think that's the part that's probably the most frustrating for you and becomes a pet peeve because it looks as if they're content with being negative and with only seeing the dark side of things. And so when people come to therapy and they're stuck in a negative mindset, and I'm nudging, at first gently, trying to get them to pull out the positive, and then they're just committed to negativity, Then I'm forced to become what I call compassionately confrontational and say, you seem really committed to misery.
Yeah.
Super committed to misery. And when people have the wounded life perspective or a misery-oriented complex, it's important to really help them start to peel back the layers of how they got that way. And oftentimes that comes from what feels like a lifetime of disappointment. And I say feels like because that's a fallacy. No one has consistently been disappointed or downtrodden. It's just that those things that have been difficult register as traumas for the person. And so it takes the front page news in their mind.
Oh, wow.
And it just eradicates any good thing that they've accomplished or encountered, and they get stuck in a cycle of ruminating on what went wrong, how everything always goes wrong for them. They feel alone, even whether they are or not. They
Right.
feel alone, they feel isolated, and they always expect the worst. And this comes because they want to prepare themselves for disappointment, but in preparing themselves for consistent disappointment, not only does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy, but B, it really skews and distorts their perception of the world.
Yeah.
And it spirals into mental illness because being extremely negative and always feeling as if the world is against you, that's what's called a persecutory delusion. And so it's a distortion of reality.
Wow. Holy cow.
And it takes treatment to snap out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there some times when, and I know I don't want to get too deep here, but are there some times where they do need some sort of medication to...
Medication and then alternative therapies in addition to talk therapy.
Okay.
And those alternative therapies can be EMDR, it can be brain spotting, biofeedback, things to actually change the way their brain maps what's happened.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you say it. I met a woman that, I wish I knew the name of her company. She had a thing where she talked about that. The brain does this, and it's been certified, but she has a thing where they can put it on your head and they measure your, I guess I'm going to call it negative and positive impulses. I know I'm really dumbing it down for me. But then they have a way where you can adjust that, even using, I guess, waves or whatever. She said, anyway, there's a whole thing behind that. Is that what you just said? Wow.
Yeah. And when a person is extremely negative too, they have a running script. So the internal dialogue, the way they talk to themselves about themselves and the world around them, that's extremely negative too. And so you have to prompt and coach them into ways to challenge the negative thoughts and the negative dialogue that's constantly running through their minds with something positive. But you can't go too positive too fast. You sort of have to go into neutral first, where it doesn't seem unrealistic to them. And then help them build upon becoming more and more positive.
So on that same note, someone who is watching this, who maybe they just created something or they have the chance to get a good job or whatever, but they're the kind of person that's also kind of negative. What would your advice be? I know this is, everyone's different and everything else, but what would their advice? They could at least try something to get, because when you have a positive attitude about something, no matter what the something is, it's much better to have a positive attitude than a negative, right?
Absolutely. And you have to prepare yourself to shift the way you view what some people call failure. Don't label it. Things that don't work out aren't necessarily failures. If you learn a lesson or you gain some experience, that's worth something. Oh,
that's such a great tie-in. So the woman I interviewed on Friday, she talked about that, and she had mentioned Thomas Edison with the light bulb. She said, we all know the light bulb. We all know that. But I think it was 100 different things he tried. And you're going to say he tried and failed. She said, but Rob, every one of those, he learned something, he perfected, and he made something better until he finally got to 100.
Exactly.
That's a great example. Wow, that's such a...
And people with a successful mindset, they're in it for the long game. You cannot be short-sighted and expect to be successful. You have to recognize that vision is important. And vision may mean that you could be washing cars for the first 2 or 5 years of something, and you just still have to keep your vision in mind.
That's excellent. But what are some of the most common challenges emotionally that successful people face? Because a lot of times people, and because you've interviewed so many people, and a lot of people you've interviewed, because you've interviewed thousands, a lot of those people are business owners, high in their executives, right? Because everyone, are their challenges any different than the average person emotionally? Are they, because we look at them sometimes like, wow, she's always happy, she's always positive.
Their challenges are different in the sense that they have to become really skilled at being their own personal cheerleader. And I think people look at extremely successful people and figure, oh, they must come from a great family. They must have a great support system. Oh, they must be so smart, or they must be so educated. And sometimes those things are true, but more often than not, that's not the case. And so the person has just decided for themselves that they're going to persevere. They have an idea and they want to see that idea come into fruition. And so I think one of the primary barriers is environment. And so I say that because oftentimes the environment can be maybe not necessarily a negative environment, but just an environment where people are like, oh, so-and-so's a dreamer, or yeah, they're always off to some new endeavor, okay, or yeah, they're always driven. They don't know how to take time to live. And so the support isn't always there.
Oh, that's right.
And they have to sacrifice a lot too. You know, maybe they're spending extra hours working, or they put relationships or romance on the back burner. And so there are sacrifices to be made. And trying to do the weights and balances of making those sacrifices and staying self-motivated, that can be a huge challenge.
Absolutely. I believe, and I think you and I kind of talked about this, that if you really want something, we find a way to do it, right? And the example I was giving was if someone says, hey, if you do this with this $500, you can invest in whatever. I haven't got the money. And then you call that same guy later in the day and say, hey, there's a cruise, $2,000 cruise. You're going to get a balcony. It's just you're going to these islands. It's $2,000, but today only it's $500. That guy would have the $500.
Yeah.
Right. But then, with that being said, there are people that want change in their life, like they're not happy with their job or their relationship or their weight. And if you ask them, they truly want change, but they don't make that change. They'll be in that situation, that job, in that weight category for years. So what is it about that? And by the way, so since you were on the 600-pound life, this is really a great tie-in, because if I want to lose 20 pounds, that's one thing. If I'm 600 pounds, my goal my task is so much bigger. Are people sometimes, and maybe I'm answering this, but not, sometimes people don't want to make a change because the task is so big they can't even begin?
It's all about perception. They perceive the task as being so enormous, when in reality, needing to make a change or wanting to make a change, the effort's going to be about the same no matter what the starting point is. And people have to learn how to break things down into manageable components. It's that inflation, that enlargement, that really makes a person feel paralyzed and stuck, because they're thinking, oh my goodness, there's so much work to be done. But being proactive doesn't mean that you're doing everything all at one time. It can mean that you do one little thing at a time and then build upon that. And it's the building. I mean, it takes time, but if you're going to commit yourself to moving beyond present circumstances, you have to be patient. And patience is something a lot of people lack.
That's right. We all want instant change. Absolutely. So you say break it down into smaller chunks. So let's go back to the weight, and because a lot of people can get that. If I'm 30 pounds overweight, right? I'm looking at 30 pounds, but if I need to lose a couple of hundred, but you're saying break it down to the same tasks, like your daily routine.
Your daily routine. First of all, your self-perception. People have a habit of being really punitive towards self. People will treat themselves horribly and treat other people so much better. If their friend wants to lose 30 pounds or 300 pounds, they'll be compassionate, they'll be supportive, but for themselves, they'll tear themselves down. You're this, you're that, you're not committed, you're lazy, or it's never going to happen. Look at yourself. You don't deserve this, you don't deserve that.
Why? Because you're absolutely right. Why do people, they're very positive for other people.
Yeah, and won't treat themselves that way. And I guess people feel as if they beat up on themselves, it's going to like whip them into reality where they're going to really let me take care of this now and then I'll reward myself later. When you do that, you're telling yourself that you don't deserve love or respect just as you are. And you almost criminalize yourself. And so when I work with patients, I make certain that they know it doesn't matter if you're 30 pounds overweight. It doesn't matter if you're 300 pounds overweight. You deserve to love yourself right now, just as you are. Stop hiding. Get out of the house. Go to the beach. Wear a swimsuit. Wear shorts. I don't care if you think you need to lose 30 pounds. I don't care if you think you need to tone up. I don't care if you think you're 150 pounds overweight. You deserve to be a human being. You know, we've all earned that right. That it's a birthright.
Yeah.
Just to be able to exist. You deserve that. And if you can love yourself as you are and still say, although I love myself, I recognize that there are changes that I need to make. That's self-acceptance. You can't wait until everything is perfect to accept yourself.
Okay. So successful people, do they have a better mindset when it comes to that?
They have a much better mindset related to self-acceptance because they believe in the ability for circumstances to be different. When you accept yourself, you also accept that the world is steadily turning and that evolution happens around every corner. And the situation you wake up in today could very well change overnight. Or it could change 10 years from now, but nonetheless, it's going to change. Change is inevitable.
Yeah. Are some people afraid of change, Lola? Like they know they want to change. It's almost going back to that misery thing. You've been in misery for so long, but the unknown of dating someone else or finding a new job, there's new people there. Are some people afraid to change, even though they want to change?
Fear with a capital F. Yes. People are afraid to change because of the unknown. And excitement, fear, and anxiety, they're all the same emotion. It's just that excitement is a positively charged emotion. Excitement leads you to connect the unknown with possibilities. Like, oh wow, I'm in a not so great situation today, but there's the possibility that something wonderful can happen if I just make some small changes and start putting in the effort. But fear tells you, you don't know what's going to happen. It probably won't work out. And if you do this and you leave this behind, you're familiar with this, you're comfortable with this.
Yeah.
What's out there? And that's what gets people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Familiarity really does breed complacency because it makes people comfortable even if they're uncomfortable.
Oh, that's a great statement. That should almost be a meme, you know. That was excellent. And that kind of goes back to this next question, which I had. What are the most common reasons people avoid facing the problems head on? Well, it's a good leadway into that. They know they have a problem. They know they need to take it, make a change, but they don't want to face it. We avoid it. You know, we avoid, okay, I'll do that tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes.
Avoidance involves lacking accountability. So as long as a person wants to avoid something, it means that there's no personal responsibility. And sometimes taking a self-inventory and looking at the role that I personally played in creating a situation, be it good or bad, can be really difficult. And so when people practice avoidance, then they can blame what happened when they were 10, what happened when they were 20, or what didn't happen as far as who wasn't there for me, or this person disappointed me or hurt me, they can hold on to those things and not take into account what control they have right now.
Okay. So do you have any, I know kind of put you on the spot here, just
Put me on the spot, it's okay.
All right. I think I told you I have a vision board, and on the top of my vision board, I have confidence. I want to have, because I feel like if I'm confident, I could do almost anything better, or at least give it a much better try, right? If you can give one or bits of piece of advice of improving one's confidence, and again, because I think it has such a chain reaction, what would you tell someone if they want to improve their confidence?
I would tell a person that's looking to improve their confidence to calm down. First and foremost, just calm down. It's not the end of the world. Whatever it is that you can envision, it can actually occur, because you wouldn't have the power to envision it or desire it if it couldn't occur.
Okay.
And so calm down and recognize that your dreams, your visions, your desires are very much real and achievable. And then I would say to the person seeking to improve confidence, have some humility. And what I mean by that, Rob, is that oftentimes people are overly concerned with how they think others are perceiving them.
Right.
And sometimes it's shocking when I say to a client, no one's thinking about you. Because they're worried about, oh, what if I downsize? What if I change from this career, or this job, or this home, or this car? What will people think? Or I don't want people to perceive me as. People have their own lives. They're not really that worried about you to the extent of you having to worry about what they think. Put all of that out of your mind. You can only live your life, run your race in the lane that you're in. Stop thinking that everyone else is concerned, because they're not.
Wow. Okay, so the guy, and also as far as who they are, where they are in life, they're making very little money or they have a crummy job, if they can get out of their mind that people even care.
Right.
That's a big part of it.
And then recognize that everything is temporary. If we just allow ourselves to sit back and soak in what's happened in our lives and what we've witnessed happening in the lives of others, we'll recognize that nothing ever stays 100% as is. So situations are temporary. Whatever you don't have today, you can have tenfold tomorrow. Whatever you have today, you might not have it all tomorrow, but you can get it back again someday.
Yeah. I remember hearing a guy talk about he was wherever he was, and then he lost everything. And he said, but I am in such a better space today because I got there. Once you get there once, you know, okay, I can get there again.
You can return.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with the success-oriented mindset, you can return to a previous position with so much more insight and knowledge and compassion for where you've been and for where others are going, that it can really change the way you enjoy things. Sometimes people achieve a certain level of success, but they don't necessarily enjoy it, or they may not do everything that they could with that success to make an impact. And so they can lose it, or it's stripped away. And then when they get it back, they're that much more thankful and know how to truly share the success. Being thankful is very powerful. The power of gratitude and thanks, it's enormous, because when you're thankful, you clear the path for greater things to come into your life and to connect with people. There is something about the spirit of gratitude that is regenerative. It causes things to grow, just seemingly out of nowhere. If a person can start looking at the things in life, those things that are working, those people that are there, and not always focus on deficits, that's really important. So often you might hear a person say, oh, I had a party and only this person showed up, only these people showed. Well, those are the people you should have gratitude for and be thankful for. Don't worry about who didn't. Worry about who shows up. Be thankful for what you do have, and don't give much concern to what you don't, because that can change. And being able to demonstrate true gratitude, it just makes a person bloom, and it makes an environment bloom. And when people can see that you're a person of gratitude, that makes people gravitate towards you, and it makes opportunity gravitate towards you. You become a magnet for opportunity.
Really?
Yeah.
And so people who are very successful, do you find that to be a common attribute in people that are?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because they know how to be engaged and present in the moment. And so they can focus on what's in front of them and the people that are in front of them. So they're the people that they're at an event and they're floating around the room, interacting and engaging with everybody, and not always looking over the person's shoulder for, oh, I told Bob to come, but he's not here yet. I'm looking for Bob. I'm looking for Bob. When, no, you don't need Bob. Rob was right in front of you.
Yeah, yeah.
Engage there. You never know what can come from that relationship.
That's right. Good point. Good point. Lola, so when I was looking up all this information on mindset and everything, what comes up are these articles, one after another, about the 10 habits of successful people. Mm-hmm. And then you'll find one that's the 15 habits. Everyone's trying to up the others,
right?
On that, do you have any just general habits that people should think about pulling into their daily routine, habits to make you have a better mindset, a more positive outlook?
Absolutely. Make lists. When people make lists, the visual is very powerful, and it's important to be able to purge your stream of consciousness, because hugely successful people have an active internal life, active imagination, active creativity, and it's important to be able to get all of that out. Get all of it out and down on paper, and then it allows you to plan. Planning is important, but also being able to be flexible with those plans, that's important as well.
Okay. What about habits of anything to do with, again, you exercise all the time. Do you feel like that's a good thing to put into someone's, again, I'm thinking about the people.
Self-care,
yeah.
Absolutely. Success-oriented individuals do have some form of a self-care regimen that they usually stick to. And of course, it can vary with demands on time, but learning to prioritize caring for yourself, whether it's making sure that you're eating complete meals, making sure that you're spending quality time with people that nurture you and help you recharge, that's important. And also hobbies. Hobbies are really important in the sense that they can be hobbies that relate to a person's vocation and what it is they're trying to achieve, or it can be hobbies that are totally separate. But it's important to just engage various parts of the self in order to stay excited about life. And also, successful people commit. You have to be able to commit to long days, sometimes long nights, and commit to being willing to keep going even if you're not seeing a huge return right away.
That comes back to that vision.
Vision.
Excellent. Let's talk about this, maybe a touchy subject for some people, but the saying is birds of a feather flock together. So if you're not doing that great in life, or you're negative or whatever, and all the friends and the people that you hang out with are about that, what would you say about that? Again, you don't want to tell people get new friends, or especially if they're your family and they're good people. But do we tend to gravitate towards the way of life of the people that are in?
Well, here's what I've learned, and it's a huge concern. For a lot of people, when they're in a space where they're feeling negatively about themselves, they don't have an accurate picture of who they actually are. And so they may surround themselves with people that are not even where they are. Because in their minds, they are viewing themselves in such a negative and pessimistic light that they will surround themselves with people that can recognize that they aren't like them, but those people will exploit, use, and so reinforce those negative feelings that a person's having about themselves.
Right.
And this can be especially true for people that are single or dating who may not feel the best about themselves at that time, but they're out there in the dating world and they may let someone hitch themselves to them that can really drag them down. And so it's important to try and get an accurate picture of who you are and where you are in your life, and not just allow yourself to be surrounded with negative people or with lecherous or users,
Right.
people that are going to use and exploit, because that's really damaging and that can really hold up success.
Excellent. And what about on telling people no? Meaning, hey, can you hang out tonight? Or, hey, have you got a minute? I got to talk to you. But you're right in the middle of doing something for yourself. And what do? We take the call, or we see the text, okay? We immediately push our stuff
To the side.
Yeah, and my thought is successful people don't do that for the most part.
Well, successful people don't allow someone else's crisis or perceived crisis to become their own, because they recognize that every person has a responsibility to themselves. And as a friend or a confidant, I can listen, I maybe even be able to assist, but I can't solve your problem, and I'm not responsible for making you happy. And I have to be okay with that. And so it's really important for people to recognize that boundaries are essential.
Yeah.
And truly successful people really understand the value and the power of boundaries.
Excellent. Excellent. Lola, is there something, everyone's looking for a quick change or a quick solution, which I know they're really unknown. Well, there are quick starts, let's put it that way. What would you tell someone if they just want to better their life, whether it's better relationships, if they want to lose weight, they want to be better at the job, just change their mindset? What's one or a few things they can do right now to start changing their mindset?
Absolutely. If someone wants to start changing their mindset right now, take an inventory and look at any vices that you may have. And that vice could be poor time management. It could be overconsumption of food. It could be overconsumption of alcohol. It could be overextending yourself, too much television. It could be overextending yourself, not knowing how to say no and constantly helping other people. So take a look at your vices or poor habits and then pick one to start working on.
Good one, okay.
Yeah, pick one to start working on first. And then you implement change and structure into your life based on how you're handling getting rid of that one vice. And so that can help open up a whole new avenue of life. And it's pretty simple to tackle one thing. It really is. Most people will look at their lives and think, oh, I need to change this, this, and this. Yes, there may be numerous things that need a change, but if you just select one, and you can select the one that's easiest for you, that's okay. It's not cheating to select something that's easy for you to change. It's okay. Select that one thing and start making a change, and other things are just going to open up for you.
Excellent. So I was going to ask you a question about self-evaluation, and you just answered it. Excellent. Well, Lola, I think we're good.
I think we're good as well.
I appreciate all for taking your time to do this. I really do appreciate it. And I know there are people that are going to watch this. They're going to learn. And that's really what I'm trying to figure out. How do people think? How do we tick? What makes us tick? Why do some people do things differently? And you've answered a lot of stuff here today.
Thank you. I'm glad. And one last thing that I want to add is that bringing a positive and peaceful attitude, that's really important. Create your peace bubble and don't let anyone penetrate that peace bubble. That's important to success too.
Really?
You don't want a lot of chaos going on, and you don't want people flipping a switch on your personality. You want to have a sense of self-control over your emotions. The ability to self-regulate your emotions, that's an essential component to success in any of its various forms.
Self-regulate your emotions. Because we always think that our emotions are uncontrollable, right? I get mad because I get mad. But you can
I get mad because I get mad. I get mad because you made me mad.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to give you the power to make me mad.
That's good. That's good. All right, Lola, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. This was fun.
This was fun. This was great. Thank you so much.